Huzzah and welcome to Beyond the Gates, an Ohio Renaissance Fair production. On this show, you will hear from all your favorite members of streetcast, vendors, and stage shows. We will hear wonderful stories from years past and find out who are the people who make the fair as magical as it is. So please, join us and enjoy Beyond the Gates. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Gates, an Ohio Renaissance Fair production. This episode is a very special episode. We are joined by none other than Tyler, the Pirate Guild leader. Tyler, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Lucas. Pleasure to be here.
It is great to have you on. Um, you and I, uh, we have been a part of cast together for now me going into my third year,
hmm
and this is I feel like the first year that we've actually had more than two conversations.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't get around to court very often, so
No, no. Tyler, how long have you been on cast?
this is going to be my seventh year, my seventh season.
What roles have you had on cast? Because I've heard you've had several before or maybe not several, but maybe
I've had
one
a
other.
couple. So my very first year, I was a Queen's Guard, which a lot of people start out as Queen Guards and then move on to other roles. My second year, I joined the Pirates as my current character, Sir Martin Frobisher. Um, And my third year, I was actually asked to take on a temporary role of Richard Burbage, who was the premier actor of the time. He was one of Shakespeare's favorites, and that was for the scenario that year. That year, Shakespeare came to the village. So my buddy Eric was Shakespeare, and I was Burbage, and we played a kind of a dynamic duo type role. So, and then ever since then, I went back to Frobisher the year after that, and I've been Frobisher ever since.
How was that Shakespeare year? I think this is the first time anybody's talked about that on the podcast.
Oh, that was a fun year. I think that was that might have been 21. I don't recall exactly. But it was fun. So the scenario was Shakespeare comes to the village, and Eric decided to play Shakespeare, a very Simon Cowell type. So he was looking for new talent to and looking for inspiration for his plays. And I was along as his actor. So Shakespeare would create a scene, and I would try to bring others into the scene and have them act it out or things like that. He was looking for the village to inspire his next play, and I was there as his fun, bumbling idiot companion who just also happened to be the best actor in the world.
Uh, so how was that switch going from that to now Sir Martin?
So it was interesting. It was different. So I didn't have different garb for Burbage. I only had a new hat made because I felt like I needed to change something up, but I'd only been Sir Martin for a year before. So my first 3 years I played three different characters. So I hadn't really truly fleshed out any of them yet. And so there's a little bit of all of my characters that seem to persist throughout. But thankfully, I had not developed Frobisher too much to where Burbage was too much of a stretch to do. Um, so I seem to play the lovable idiot quite well. So that has been something that has persisted, and I dialed it up for Burbage. I dial it back a little bit more for Frobisher. I throw in a little bit more uh, self assurance, a little bit more swagger, perhaps,
Mhm.
um, where Burbage had a little bit more of the aloofness of being a big star that I brought in. But it those first 3 years were difficult as a new actor and a new cast member, but seems to have worked out, you know. They were some very memorable characters. There was one time on opening gate, I remember as Burbage, we introduced ourselves with a big flourish, and I was Richard Burbage. Well, my first character, the Queen's Guard, was Sir Richard Fairgrove. And one day on gate, I think it was probably a Sunday morning, so we were tired. We had just got through one full day and we were going into the second. I get up and I always introduce myself as Richard Burbage. And this time I got up there and I was like, Sir Richard, wait a second. I am no sir, just a character I've played. My apologies, my good friends. I am just Richard Burbage. And it was so embarrassing because I'm out there, this entire massive crowd just looking directly at me as I completely forgot which character I was. But the character was an actor, so it was an easy exit to correct the
Hmm.
mistake. But every once in a while, the my friends who were up on the gates will still look at me and they're like, "How's it going, Sir Richard Burbage?"
What made you want to pick Sir Martin? Because I know you are well versed in the history of your character.
Oh yes. Uh, so I knew I wanted to be, after my first year, I wanted to be a pirate. I loved singing shanties with the pirates, and back when then we would do Gauntlet outside of the gates. So this is even before your time, but it used to be after we would sing Parting Glass, all of cast would go out the gates first, and we would create a gauntlet. Like we would line up on either side and let the patrons go through. Well, we would be stuck out there for some time, so we found ways to entertain ourselves. The pirates would group up and sing shanties and just cause mischief amongst each other and the rest of cast, but that's another story. Um, but I loved joining the pirates to sing their shanties. I love shanties. The rhythmic chanting and call and response of shanties is just it speaks to something in me, and I absolutely love it. So I knew I wanted to be a pirate. And so that entire season, even before the season was done, I just started doing research on pirates of the time and the privateers. And I had a feeling I wanted to be a sea dog, a privateer, because I enjoyed being with court and I wanted to be able to kind of straddle that line. And that's what the privateers would do. So I looked at the privateers at the time and I just kind of started working my way down the list of who was available, who was already taken, and I did a little bit of research on all of them, and I really liked Sir Martin Frobisher's story. So he was imprisoned as a young man. He was a trader. He was a merchant. He was imprisoned as a young man in a Portuguese colony in Africa. He was given over as a hostage, as a trading hostage, and then his ship got attacked and left. They left him. So he was imprisoned there for a while, and eventually he was moved up to Portugal. And after about, I think it was about 4 years, he just kind of disappeared and then reappeared in England. So nobody's entirely sure how he got out of the prison, if they just let him go because he was worthless and they were tired of feeding him. But he appeared back in England. Um, he just kind of hopped around a little bit. He was accused of piracy several times and imprisoned several times. But he apparently had made some connections in the court because he was released every time he was imprisoned. And then eventually he convinced a trading company and the Queen to allow him to explore. And his first expedition was looking for the Northwest Passage, and that was in 1574, I believe. But on that expedition, he found a rock, very unassuming rock, brought it back to England, and one of his investors had it assayed, and well, they thought it contained gold, which drove more investors to invest in the company. And his next two expeditions were to set up a mining colony in what's now Labrador, Canada. And over two expeditions, he brought back over 1,000 tons of this ore. And it was while he was away on his third expedition in England, they discovered that it was absolutely worthless iron pyrite, also known as fool's gold. And after that, the company that invested in him went bankrupt. He was forbidden from exploring any further. And he eventually went the military route for England, becoming a privateer, licensed pirate, and helping out with military expeditions and exploits. But I just love the idea of him going, finding, bringing a whole bunch of fool's gold across an ocean and just absolutely causing chaos in that way and unintentionally. But I just love the story. I love the idea, and that's what I decided to play with. So I play with him somewhere in between the second and third expedition, not knowing that it's
Mhm.
Fool's Gold yet. So I play him as a very like nouveau riche. He thinks he has a lot of money. I carry around a pouch of iron pyrite and I give it to the kids, and I'm like, "This is real New World gold." Um, and I play it just before everything collapses, and we find out that it's all fraud. I just love his story. It's hilarious.
No, that's a great story. That's one of the things I really enjoy about, being a historical character is that you're already given so much of what to choose to play with.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's one of the great things about having a historical character is there's so much already there, but you can take and pick the parts of their lives that seem most interesting and then really almost make a caricature of those parts and play it up. So if I wanted to, I could completely reinvent Frobisher and make him a real gruff and dirty pirate because he also did that. I could play him as a merchant because he had that time in his life where he did that. I could take him and play him as an admiral because he was a vice admiral in Drake's Panama um, expedition. He was one of the four primary commanders in the defense of England in the Spanish invasion in 1588. Sir Martin Frobisher, well, he was not a sir at the time. This is actually what gave him his knighthood. Frobisher commanded the largest English ship in the defense of England in the invasion of the Spanish Armada. He commanded the ships of the line. So Drake had the fire ships, the smaller ships, but Frobisher held the ships of the line. And for days harried the Spanish Armada, fought them tooth and nail, and he was kind of a last line of defense if Drake's fire ships plans had not failed. So he and Richard Hawkins, got knighted at the same time on the same day.
Mhm.
So it's a very interesting character.
Uh, what made you want to join cast, uh, just in general?
So I have been coming to the Renaissance Fair on and off pretty much my entire life. I've always loved medieval things and fantasy. So even as a child, I would beg my parents to bring me to the Renaissance Festival. And I mean, I have pictures of me going back years, coming to festival with my family and my friends. Um, and then it was soon after I moved back to Ohio because I'd been in school in Florida for a little while. I saw an ad, I think, for the Renaissance Festival where I knew it was coming up. I don't remember exactly now, but I was like, ah, man, wouldn't that be fun? Um, but it was actually I went to Celtic Fest. I think it was one of the first Celtic Fest Ohio's. It was in 2017 or 2018. I think it was 17. But I just went with one of my friends, my very good friends at the time, and we were just hanging out, having a good time. I'd actually just bought my first kilt. Um, this would have been 2018, I remember now, because there's a picture of me with my brand new kilt. I just put it on. I have the kilt bag in my hands, and my pants are in that bag, and I'm holding a Guinness. So it had to have been 18, because that would have been the first year I would have been able to drink at Celtic Fest, Ohio. But right after that picture was taken, we had wandered down, and they had a recruiting booth there for uh, the Renaissance Festival, and I talked to he was the cast director at the time. And I was just getting some more information on joining cast, and he gave me the rehearsal or the audition days. And I remember I had a family vacation for that, so it was 2 weekends in a row. But my family, we would always leave the Friday before, and we would get back like late the next Sunday. So I was going to completely miss both of the Saturday rehearsals or auditions. My apologies. And I talked to him and I was like, man, I really want to join cast, but I'm going to be gone both of these audition days. Is there anything that we can do? Do you have an alternate day, a makeup day or whatever? And he asked me about my theatrical experience. And I mean, I'm a thespian. I'd been in theater all of my school career, but I was always behind the scenes. I was a stage manager. I wasn't really out on the stage acting. I did forget to mention that little part. I just said that I was a thespian and had been in theater my entire high school and part of my college career. Um, and he was like, "Okay, then we can do your audition right now." And I was like, "All right, neat. What do you want me to do?" And he reached over the booth counter and said, "Tag, you're it." Hopped over the counter and started running through the festival grounds. Mind you, we are in the middle of CFO, which is a music event. Like it's Celtic
Hmm.
Fest, Ohio. There's music, there's people there, like there are patrons everywhere. And I'm holding a beer and a bag with my pants. So I just turned to my friend and I threw the beer and pants at her. And I just take off running after this guy in a fresh new kilt that I'd just gotten. And we start playing tag through the festival grounds. And after that, he said, all right, show up to this stage at this time and day, and we'll go from there. And I was like, oh, cool. So that must be, the next part of auditions. No, it was the first rehearsal day. So I showed up and he was like, all right, we're going to keep an eye on you, but here's rehearsals. I was woefully unprepared. So like I said, I thought it was just, the next step of auditions, but the rest is history.
Well, that definitely answers my next question, which was going to be, how was your audition process? I think that is probably going to be, I mean, your episode number 6, but
Hmm.
I have a feeling that's probably going to be the most interesting audition story. It's the most interesting I've had so far.
It was certainly interesting. So what's funny about that is I had never been to an audition process until I became a guild leader and had to judge an audition. So my very first auditions were when I was guild leader and I was now looking at people to join cast. I had to
Hmm.
look at the other staff members and I was like, so what do we do here? Because I've never done this before. It's just funny.
So speaking of that, your experience of being a guild leader, how long have you been a guild leader?
So this is my second year being a guild leader.
Okay.
So still pretty fresh for me.
Uh, Hale has been on the show,
Hmm.
and Hale is speaking about their experience as being a village guild leader. What's it like being the guild leader for the pirates?
So Pirates is a little interesting. It's another beast, it seems like. Um, Pirates are what we call a specialty guild. It's one of two, so Pirates and Fae, to where they typically require an additional audition process or by invite only. So Fae, I know, audition their members, and Pirates have auditioned to join the guild in past years, but the 2 years that I've done it, I've invited pirates into the guild. So it's been a by invitation only. And part of the reason for that is being a pirate warface, so being in a specialty guild is a little bit more we expect a little bit more out of our members. So both pirates and fae have additional they're not full shows, but they have additional responsibilities throughout the day. So we have to make sure that these people that we bring in can handle those additional responsibilities. So, for example, pirates, uh, our big thing is pirate playtime. It's at 2:30 on the chess field every day, rain, shine, sleet, snow, whatever it is. And we invite anybody really, but specifically, we invite children to come and play with the pirates, where we play schoolyard games, things like Pirate Guard, Duck Duck Goose, Red Lantern, Green Lantern, Sharks and Minnows, Freeze Tag. We call Sharks and Minnows Sharks and Pirates, but we frame it in such a way that we are inviting these children onto our crew, but we have to make sure that they have the piratical skills it's going to take. So we teach them running away from the guards, how to swim away from the sharks, listening to instruction, teamwork, things like that. And we invite these kids out and we just play games with them. And watching them run around, screaming, smiling, laughing is honestly one of the best parts of the day. Festival days can be long and hard and hot, and they're exhausting. I'm not gonna lie. You know it, Lucas. It can be rough out there
Oh
sometimes.
yeah, yeah.
But getting to go out on that field and play with these kids and just give them a little bit of joy and watching the parents sit down on the sides and have a meal or be able to drink a beer and just relax for a couple minutes while their kids are being taken care of, the smiles on the parents' faces alone are worth it. The kids are just, bonus points. And then we give them fun piratical prizes. We have a massive chest that I found at a yard sale once, that I converted into a pirate chest, and we fill it up with pirate trinkets, some gold coins, spy glasses, eye patches, the whole 9 yards. And we share some of our pirate treasure with these kids as a thank you for coming out and playing with us. So that's something the pirates do that is an additional show on top of everything else we have to do in the day. And it's intense. And I got to make sure that the pirates are good with kids. They can handle being out there. I think the most kids we've had on that field has been 65
Oh wow.
children. 65 children, ages. I've had kids that I've had to carry in my arms because they can't run across the field. I've been handed a baby and they were like, "Can my baby play?" And I was like, "Sure, why not? Give me the kid." So I have run across that field with a baby in my arms playing Red Lantern, Green Lantern, but we'll even have parents join us. So it's for kids of all ages that we've had out on that field, but it's fun. It can be intense. But we also sing. We sing almost as much as the choir. So on top of any other shows the pirates have to do, they also have to learn music. And then we sing at the front gate. We sing at what we call the dinghy. It's right by the Y Bridge. We will sing during parade. We'll sing after parade. Anytime that we can get some pirates together, we'll sing on the side of the road. But we expect a lot out of our pirates, and so we have to make sure that they're capable of handling it.
I do want to ask about our time on rehearsals, and I've heard stories about pirate lunchtime
Oh, yeah,
and some of the food that you have made for pirate lunchtime. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
of course. So, Pirate Lunchtime is something I started last year when I took over the guild. So much of what we know about naval tradition of the time frame also talks about the food that they would eat. There are stories about it. There's myths, legends, even the songs talk about the food that they eat. So I think as part of our pirate training, and that's really what a guild leader is there to do, is to train and teach. I feel like a very important part of that is to let them have a taste of what it might have been like, just a little taste of history to add some context and flavor. I use flavor very lightly here, to what our characters might have experienced. And I thought the best way to do that is through their stomachs and through their taste buds. So I took some traditional recipes that might have been available on ships, namely ship's biscuits, hardtack, salted beef and pork,
Hmm.
cheeses, etc., etc. I take these and I make them, and I one day, usually towards the end of rehearsals, um, I bring it all to festival grounds, and pirates we eat lunch together, and I share this smorgasbord of preserved foods with them. So this year I did um, salt beef and salt pork. I had four variations. So I salted a brisket tip and some beef tenderloin. And then I did those as a dry brine, and then I had a pork tenderloin. I did half of it dry brine, half of it wet brine, because there's some historical precedence for both. But also I wanted to do batches in case one of them failed. I would still have something to serve, because I was really concerned. I hadn't salted anything like this before, but I salted them for weeks. I had to swap out the salt a couple times. It was something like 12 pounds of salt altogether.
Oh wow.
Um, and I cured this meat and brought it in, and some of it we ate raw, I guess. It's cured, so it's like a prosciutto almost, but it is incredibly salty. It's not pleasant. Some of it I soaked before I brought it in, because one of the methods is to soak it to try to leach out as much of the salt as you can before
Hmm.
you use it. Some of it I brought in a frying pan, and we fried it up, but you really couldn't fry using oil on a ship because it's a fire hazard. So they would, I forget what the term is, but you would fry it effectively in water. And what that allows it to do is it allows the fat to render a little bit without burning the meat itself. Because if you just put the dry meat onto the pan, the meat's going to burn before the fat renders, and it's just no good. So putting it in water allows it to cook a little bit more evenly. So across all of it, I think I had effectively 8 or 10 variations, and I would be like, all right, here's a soaked, cooked, here's a non-soaked, cooked, here's uh, and all those different variations. Like, here's a whole bunch of different ways that you might have had your meal on a pirate ship. Um, and then some of the other crew members, they made hardtack and brought it in. Some of the crew members brought in some hard cheeses that might have been available on ships, and I made about a gallon of grog using traditional recipes. And we had pirate lunch, and it's a good time.
No, that's
Um,
awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It's interesting to see what our ancestors and our forebears might have had on ships. But the whole name of the game was preservation. What could you have that and make it last on a ship? So it had to be dry. You had to get the moisture out. You had to protect it from bugs and disease. And then you had to find some way to make it palatable. I still have some of that salted meat. It's in my freezer now. I'll throw it in a stew every once in a while.
Oh yeah. Is
Yeah.
it still holding up all right, I guess?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's holding up. Part of me wants
Uh,
to start salting something now for next year and just see what happens.
so being a part of Fair for the past 7 years now, what do you think is the biggest change that you have noticed or you have experienced yourself?
Oh, the biggest change. So that would probably be the resources available to cast. Um, so when I first started, the cast screen room used to be a little effectively lean-to structure by the front gate. I Were you ever in that cast room, Lucas?
I have been in that cast room, uh, or in that area that was once the green room, just
Yes.
because of being on progress with Her Majesty.
Okay. So you know what it is. It's a real small little area right by the front gate. All told, it's probably about 120 square feet, with it can fit maybe two benches, and had what can be generously called shelves. And we were expected to fit 100 to 120 cast members and their belongings in that area. That area is also parking for front gate staff and the booths in that area. Uh, and and quite frankly, it was crowded at the best of times. Well, since then, we've been given our nice new cast area to where we have plenty of space to spread out. We have tents and shade to and tables to put our things on. Uh, Cast also was only given meal tickets, so we would only have the meal tickets. It would be one meal ticket per day per
Hmm.
person, effectively, is what it came out to. Well, now we have the cantina where we're given food and as much water as we can drink. They just keep bringing pallets of water back as much as we need it. So things like that, to where the quality of life of cast has dramatically gone up. Um, Kind of used to be a fend for yourself situation. And now it seems that our concerns and plights are being heard. But on top of that, the additional acreage of the Whimsy Woods was like a pressure relief valve for those large crowds. What used to be when we would get large crowds, 20 plus thousand people in a day,
Hmm.
it would be so hard to move around the festival grounds. It was ridiculous. You couldn't make it across the grounds. You almost had to dip backstage in order to make it to your show on time. So that right there has been a huge boon. Bringing in new shows has been phenomenal. And now I think with the ticket caps, it's only going to get better. So we had the sellout day, second weekend, and even on a sold out day, the crowds were manageable. The lines weren't long. You could walk through the streets without feeling, somebody else's breath on the back of your neck. Like I didn't feel like I was cattle, like just shuffling through the streets where in years past I have. So just in my short time frame, I would say that those are the biggest changes that I've seen.
So, along with playing a privateer on the weekends, what do you do when you're not at fair?
So my day job is actually as an insurance underwriter. So I work for a local company. Um, People probably know the name of it, but I am in commercial lines. I handle commercial lines insurance for part of Nebraska. So I've got a good chunk of Nebraska. It's a bit wild to think about, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's just that's one of the joys that especially for people that I really haven't had. I don't want to say much interaction because we've definitely had a ton of interaction this year.
Hmm.
But just other people and just hearing and finding out what they do when they're not running around pretending to be somebody playing dress up in the woods, as we say.
Exactly. That madman with a mane of hair tearing it up on the chess field has a 9 to 5 office job and deals with risk management and insurance. Definitely, it's interesting when I tell my day job coworkers about what I do on the weekends. They're like, "Wait, what? You mean you go out and fight with swords?" And I was like, "Yeah." They were like, "And you work in insurance?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Isn't that dangerous?" And I was like, "That's why I do it."
What is your favorite part of your typical fair day?
Um, Other than pirate playtime, which I've already talked about, which pirate playtime is probably what gets me through. I love fighting. So the chess match, I've been in stunt show several years. I absolutely love getting to learn sword work and go out there and put it up for show. The adrenaline, the intensity, and the focus that comes in the middle of a fight is it's unparalleled. I don't really think there's anything like it in the world, but that I would say is my favorite. And we have our new fight show where we get to invite patrons and especially children to come into the field with us, and we teach them sword work. So it combines the best parts of fighting and pirate playtime to where we can teach what we know and teach what we love to others and hopefully instill that into them as well. But yeah, I would definitely say my favorite part of the festival day is when I get to go out on the chess field and fight.
For the listeners out there who, because the whole School of Defense is brand new this year, correct?
Brand new. This is our first year trying something like it.
Uh, what time and where is that on the festival grounds? So listeners out there know that it's a thing, and they might have missed it on previous times out there this year.
Of course. It is at 4:30 on the chess field. And the way it works is some of our fighters, our instructors, will go out there with steel, and we will be reenacting some historical plates, which the plates are how the old fighting masters used to teach. It was almost like a picture book. So there would be a picture and then a description of what is happening or what had just happened in a fight between a master and a student. And the plates are how they would teach. So some of us will go out there and reenact some of these plates and show some of the historical techniques. And that goes on for about 5 minutes. And then after that, we bring out some polyurethane swords and we invite the patrons out into the field with us. And we offer Italian longsword, Hungarian saber, German long spear, and German dagger. So there's 4 different rotations that you can do, and most people can get through about 3 of them in a day, based on the timing. But we will teach you some moves in those styles. So we will run you through um, a sequence to where you can kind of get a feel for that style a little bit, and we'll teach you about some of the historical nature of it. We don't allow anybody to fight each other, both as an insurance person and as a fighter. That's just a bad idea. So we don't allow that. But it is fun to watch, about a 3 foot nothing 5-year-old hold up a 10 foot spear and try to fight with it. It's like that sequence in Milan. It's very funny, but the
And
kids love it.
is this a free thing that people can participate in?
100% free. Yeah, it's 100% free. We just ask that if you've been enjoying the libations of festival all day, to maybe just observe from the sidelines.
That seems fair enough, as you said, as somebody who works in insurance and
Yeah.
who is a fighter. So as we wrap up here, I get to the two questions that I've been asking everybody consistently here on the
hmm
podcast. Uh, throughout your time at Fair, what is your most memorable story that you have of Fair? Now, I know you said earlier about being on front gate, but do you have a another story?
Oh, I've got tons, but I think the most memorable and the one that I tell, this is the one that I tell new fighters all the time. And it's the story of my very first time fighting on the chess field. So our chess fights, they have a drum that goes with them. He has been the drummer there for years, and he plays this very almost tribal, ritualistic drum beat as they're fighting. I'd heard it for years, and every time you go to watch fights, you can hear it. Right after my very first fight, I looked at my fight partner and I said, "Why wasn't he drumming for us?" And I had not heard it. She looked at me and she was like, "Tyler, he drummed the entire time." But when I got out there, I got so focused on the fight, I developed tunnel vision. I didn't hear the drums that were playing right next to me. And that is something that I tell the new fighters. I was like, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get out on the field and everything's going to go quiet. And all you're going to see is your fight partner. And you're not going to hear anything except for their breathing. And it's intense. It's wild. It's one of my favorite experiences. Like I said, just I legitimately thought that he just didn't drum for us. I was a little bit insulted, but no, it's just I had never experienced a focus like that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's an awesome story. Uh, so for the final question that I have, Tyler, what keeps you coming back year after year?
Oh, that's a good question. I think what keeps me coming back are the friends and the connections that I've made at festival. It's it's a community unlike any other, to where you don't have to be serious all the time. You don't have to put on a mask. You can just say it like it is, where you get to fight and make up right after, where you can sit down and have a drink with people from all walks of life. You get to walk around in funny clothes and talk in an accent. Nobody looks at you too weird. It's it's freeing being at festival, and it's not something that you get anywhere else. So I think that's why I keep coming back.
That's very fair. That is something that I get to relate to as
Hmm.
well. Where as much as I enjoy being me, it's kind of fun to play pretend and run around the woods with your friends.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm awesome and I love being me, but getting to be somebody else for a little while is pretty cool too.
All right, Tyler. Well, thank you very much for coming on the episode, and thank you so much to all the listeners out there. Uh, I have officially applied to Apple Podcasts, so I'm still waiting on that. But as always, you can find us on YouTube and Spotify. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, huzzah!
Huzzah.